Hey everyone, today I'm here with a Tiffany's Tell All video, and today's topic is about Makayla eating solid foods. So I don't know if I've ever, probably in like my very first videos. When Makayla was a baby, when she was first born, I breastfed her up until I believe 6 months old. She was diagnosed around 5 months old, and what happened is I breastfed her till 6 months, so we went through her disorder and seizures and all that, and I still breastfed her till 6 months. At 6 months old, I did start her on baby foods. I didn't do like my own baby foods or anything. I did like the jar baby foods. And at 6 months or 7 months, something like that, I did switch her to formula. I found that going through her disorder, I kind of needed that release, and I switched her to formula. It did cost me a lot more in the end, and I so wish I had continued to breastfeed her, but I didn't. And that's just the decision I made in the moment, and I'm not gonna regret it. So I did start her on solid foods at 6 months old. She ate everything a normal baby would eat. And as she got older, she switched to more solidified foods. I would feed her pretty much anything we would eat as long as she could eat it. So obviously not like solid meats, things like that, but anything that I felt like she could swallow, like a baby would, that I gave her. I didn't hold her back from anything just because of her disorder. At the time, her disorder did not affect her eating. And then I believe, I'm trying to remember, it was so long ago, guys. Now she's almost 8 years old, and this was 7.5 years ago, so I can't remember exactly how old she was, but we were starting to discuss the ketogenic diet, and I won't get into exactly what that means, but if you want, you can look that up. Basically what the ketogenic diet does is help stop seizures. It has a really good rate of helping children, and we were considering it. At the time, though, food was her favorite thing, and the ketogenic diet is a very strict diet, and I felt like taking away food from her was the only thing that she could technically do. Normally was eat, so I chose not to put her on the ketogenic diet. We did talk about a gtube at that point, and we decided no, that was not the way to go at the time. So later, past that stage, I want to say she was 16 to 18 months old. We did a feeding study which x-rays her as she eats. They put a dye in her food so that they can see where the food is going, whether it's going into her lungs or her stomach, and the feeding study showed that she was aspirating. However, I did not agree with the feeding study because she was not positioned the way she would normally be. They positioned her straight upright, and I would hold her at an angle position. They also asked me like what food I would feed her first, and I explained like I would do this first, that second, and that third, because I always gave her 3 things. It usually was brown beans, mashed potatoes, and some sort of vegetable. That's what she would get every meal for dinner. And they asked me which one I would give first. They did the complete opposite of what I told them. So I did not agree with the feeding study. However, I knew she was aspirating a little bit at that point, but I knew in my heart that she wasn't aspirating as much as what they were saying. So at that point, they recommended that we switch to an NG tube or a G tube, and we just weren't ready for that. We weren't ready to take away her solid foods, because she was still eating, she was still maintaining her weight at that point, and that's just what we decided. So after Makayla turned 2 years old, it was like not even a week after she turned 2, and I was feeding her one morning. I think I was feeding her like oatmeal or something, and she had this very, very dry cough. She was very irritable. She started getting a fever, and I just knew that something wasn't right. She then threw up, which was not normal for her. And I knew at that point that she had aspiration pneumonia. I just knew how aspiration pneumonia worked, and I knew that's what happened. So at that point, we took her to Sick Kids, and she was no longer able to eat solid foods. They put an gtube in as soon as we got there, and she was switched to her formula, which is Nutrien Junior with fiber. She was switched to the gtube, and then a month later we got the gtube. So from that point on, she no longer ate by mouth on a regular basis. However, that didn't mean that we didn't give her a few things here and there, ice cream and, you know, certain things. But the doctor did recommend that we fed nothing by mouth. So, I mean, it's one of those things where you have to take the good with the bad. I noticed when we switched her to the gtube or the gtube, things were much easier for me. I would feed her through a tube, and I wouldn't be sitting there an hour with her, feeding her like a baby. Now, that doesn't mean that I didn't enjoy the bond that I had with her and her looking at me when I held her, and that was one of the hardest things about her disorder, and what was taking away food, because it was the one thing that she could do that she enjoyed. But like I said, you have to take the good with the bad, and it did make my life much easier, and we were all much happier after that. It just made life easier. So from here on out, we normally don't give her anything by mouth. Maybe on her birthday we'll give her a little taste of icing or something like that. But I've also gotten questions in regards to her smelling the food that we cook, and if I think that it bothers her, if it makes her hungry. And I haven't seen any signs of want from Makayla. She doesn't show any signs that she's irritable when we're cooking. I don't think it bothers her as of right now. She has been gtube fed all her life pretty much, and I mean, it's just something that's normal for her. So when she first started getting fed by gtube, we would actually notice she would start getting like the formula in her tummy, and she would actually use her mouth and go like she was tasting something, because she put 2 and 2 together that she was getting food in her belly, so she should be eating. And it was one of the sweetest things I remember switching her over, was her going like when she was getting fed. And she no longer does that. That kind of just went away with time. Obviously, she just gets used to being fed through a tube, and she just knows. So I've also gotten questions in regards to, does she get hungry? Does she show signs of hunger? Because we do only feed her 3 times a day, and the answer is no. If she does go a long period of time without eating, like we miss her feed, or her feed is late, yeah, she'll get a little bit irritable. There are some times in the mornings where we can tell that she's hungry. You'll hear her tummy gurgle, just like you and I. But other than that, Makayla is such a content little girl. She's never very fussy. She's never irritable. So I think that's all for this video. I didn't mean to get a little emotional there, but that's just something that was definitely hard for us in the beginning. Now it's just our norm to feed her through a tube. If you have any other questions or comments in regards to this topic, please leave them in the comments below and I'll be sure to answer them in a next video. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel and hit that notifications button so that you're getting my videos as soon as they go up. And I'll talk to you next time. Bye guys.